Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a safe place for leading with your heart. Hey, thanks for being here. You, Me, Empathy is the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective, a collaborative mental health community designed to empower each of us to grow our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. No one is just a silly boy with a feely heart. You can support the show by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts, following us on social media at Yumi Empathy and Feely Human, and joining the Feely Human Collective community at feelyhuman.co. And now your host, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of Yumi Empathy. My name is Known Wells. This is episode 143 on the interconnectedness of healing with psychosomatic therapist, herbalist, and flower practitioner Heidi Smith. Heidi and I in this episode talk about the assets of the wounded healer, unburdening ourselves of childhood traumas, cosmic balance, plant medicine, ecological and social justice, and the universality and interconnectedness of healing. Heidi is a wonderful Feely human, and she explores healing and connection through flowers and herbs, and it's very fascinating. And she actually has a new book out. It's called The Bloom Book, A Flower Essence Guide to Cosmic Balance. I have it. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It just feels good in your hands, and I think you'll love it too. So go to Heidi's website at moonandbloom.com. That's moonandbloom.com, and check out her and her book. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Before we get to it, I wanted to remind you to please leave a rating and review for Yumi Empathy in Apple Podcasts. It really does help out the show. It's a free way to support the show. Other ways to support me and the work I do and this show is to go to feelyhuman.co/support. That's feelyhuman.co/support. You can buy stuff from the Feely Human shop, or write for the Feely Human Journal, or even do an art collaboration. Recently, we launched with wonderful artist Chloe Owen an Empathy for Kids zine. It's adorable and lovely. Check that out at feelyhuman.co/shop. Also, wonderful artist Bella Roskigno. I'm terrible at that last name. Sorry, Bella. A wonderful design that we collaborated on called the Flower Girl and People Pleaser. It's a sticker. It's only $3. It's beautiful. Get yourself one and support me and an independent artist in the process. What else? I think that's it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with me every week on Yumi Empathy. I'm really grateful for you. And I just love that we can come together and grow with one another. And that's what it's about. It's about healing together. It's about interconnectedness. It's hard to say that word. Interconnectedness of healing. Yes, that's it. Enjoy this episode 143 on the interconnectedness of healing and dogs pattering in the background with Heidi Smith. Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights, and the darks we face as humans, trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of Yumi Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. Yumi Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I'm Dorothy, lost in Oz, in a field of magical sunflowers because I'm here with psychosomatic therapist, herbalist, flower essence practitioner, and author of the brand new floral tome, The Bloom Book. It's Heidi Smith. Hello, Heidi.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here, Known.
I'm very grateful you're here. I'm excited to get into your story and really explore your new book. I've never talked with someone, certainly have never had someone on the podcast who specializes in what you specialize in. So I'm very excited.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So before we get into your story, Heidi, let's do an emotional check-in. How are you feeling right now, and how's your week been?
This week has been really, really great. My book came out last week, and so there's a feeling of accomplishment and relief and happiness that it's out in the world, and I feel like I can relax a little more. And today I'm feeling good. I did all my morning rituals that help me feel more in balance. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to connecting with you and sharing what comes up in this field that we have together.
I love that. First of all, just congrats on the book coming out. It's what an achievement that is, just to publish a book.
Yeah, thanks. It's kind of a wild time to be launching anything, including publishing a book, but I do trust that this is the time for it. And I believe that books and projects, when made with intention, have spirits. And the spirit of the book keeps reminding me that this is all part of the plan. Don't worry. So I'm just trying to roll with it.
Yeah. Rolling with it, I think, is good advice, especially now in these times where we all are probably feeling a little unanchored and untethered from our sort of normal things that, tether and anchor us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to share a little bit about what's going on in my world. I shared online that recently I started EMDR, and I had my first session last week, and it was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting. It was heavy, and I certainly felt exhausted the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to, her name's Sarah. I talked to Sarah after the fact, and I told her I was feeling, what was coming up for me was I was feeling like talking to myself, like, am I doing this right? Is this going to work? And she's like, that is probably one of the more normal, typical sort of responses to EMDR. And I'm thinking on that experience and thinking of how universal that is for all of us for a lot of different experiences, right? Like we go into new experiences and we question whether or not we are doing it, quote unquote, right, or we are questioning whether or not we're gonna get what we need out of it because we have all of this maybe perhaps contextual baggage or cultural baggage that we take into it. And for me, that was just a reminder that I just need to be as present as possible and go into it without, trying to shed that as much as possible so I can really go deep,
Yeah, totally. That's so wonderful that you're looking into that modality. I know that that's been helpful for me personally, actually, and I know it's been helpful for so many people that I know and work with.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So you've been to EMDR yourself?
I have. I've worked with a marvelous EMDR therapist named Terry, and they helped me dig into a lot of early family trauma that many of us are holding. And I do think it's a really effective way to work with trauma. And yeah, there's so many like ways in and levels to healing, right? But like you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, um, we are conditioned to believe certain things about healing and trauma, for instance. And the more that we can explore that edge of trusting and letting go, but also um, trusting ourselves that we know what we need,
Mm.
and um, being in an empowered, empathic position with ourselves and our healing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a, that's well said. I'm thinking of like how we as humans get to a place where we actually can uh, identify what we need. Because that, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even just that journey is so hard. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we may be in it, we may be in the thing that we need, but it's sometimes it's an even greater effort to name that thing and understand. Okay, this is the thing I need, because we don't always know.
Totally. Yeah. And sometimes we have to be in the not knowing. And yeah, just naming it, I feel like can kind of break the spell, which is such a big
Mm,
step. And I think getting to the point where you can actually claim your needs, sometimes that's part of the process. Because I think for a lot of us, and especially women, we're not really supposed to have needs in a
right,
lot of ways, you know?
right. Yeah, absolutely. So, um, let's unpack that a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about some of that childhood trauma that you referenced that you were working on in EMDR?
Sure. So, I think, like many of us, I grew up in an environment where I didn't feel emotionally safe. So, I needed to go back and be with parts of my childhood that the way that I understand it, the way that I conceptualize it is, um, as children, if we don't feel safe, then, or at any traumatic event, any any experience wherein the ego doesn't feel safe, a part of the soul can literally be left behind. And that's kind of the idea behind soul retrieval work, if you're familiar with that. And I think we all are being called to do the work of reintegrating these parts of ourselves that get left during different times and at different points in our lives. And yeah, I think that work is ongoing.
Mm,
And um, yeah, I don't actually feel super comfortable talking about parts of my childhood, but that's something that I'm getting more comfortable with. And I think what I do feel called to share at this point in time in my journey publicly is that um, personality disorders are a real thing, and awareness around them is growing.
mm,
And I feel called to be part of a shift so that more people who are on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse can get the help that they need. And I think also it's important to normalize that most people, a lot of healers especially, identify as the wounded healer. And we need to honor that, and it's not a liability, it's an asset. It gives us our superpowers. And
Right.
even empathy, I think empathy is such a tremendous asset, and especially when you can bring empowerment to your empathy and use it with mastery. It's such a gift to yourself and to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I honor the challenges that I had in growing up, and I honor the place where I came from. And um, yeah, I'm definitely still very much immersed in in working through that. Does that? I hope that answers your question. I hope I'm not being too vague.
No, not at all. It does, and I appreciate you being open about like you're not ready to share certain things, and that's okay. Like that's totally fair, and I get that. I relate to so much of what you're saying, and intimating even. I know for myself, Heidi, I was in an environment that didn't feel safe emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm curious how you sort of look back on that that childhood self of yours, and interpret like how that person responded. Because for me, I responded by shutting down emotionally. I responded by
Mm-hmm.
feeling like I needed to take care of parents, feeling
Yeah.
like I needed to mediate, feeling like I needed to be the one to shoulder mother's tears, like those types of things, and um, in that, not feeling seen, not feeling safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you were the parentified child,
Right,
and
right.
that's a position so many of us are in, I think. And I think it's so awesome that we're finally in a time where we can actually talk about this openly. Uh, and yeah, I think the way to answer your question, I think the way that I survived, the way that my ego developed, really, which is like an orientation around your wounding, I became very kind of performative, like a doll. I
Hmm.
felt like I felt like a living doll,
Wow. Yeah.
and I think that was the origin of a lot of perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
And I could also be very dramatic, and I think that was I also needed to be invisible to survive, but I also became very dramatic. Um, and
Dramatic in what way?
um, I think it was like kind of like attention seeking
Mm-hmm.
behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was my subconscious attempt at trying to get people to pay attention to what was really going on.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of covert stuff happening that
Mm-hmm.
so there was a very performative aspect to it, and I felt um, very much tasked as the one to make everything look normal and make everything okay. And so maybe you can relate to that too.
Yeah. Absolutely. I felt it's weird how we can feel. I mean, you're describing two things that may seem, like opposites. The feeling of wanting to be, um, hidden, but also the feeling of like performing. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely can relate to that. I recently I'm reading the book The Deepest Well. Have you heard of this?
No, no.
It's by Nadine Burke Harris, who's the Surgeon General of California,
Okay.
and it's all about the ACE scores and the ACE studies.
Oh yeah, huge proponent of the ACE studies for sure.
Yeah, and it's 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 a difficult read,
Okay, yeah.
um, because it brings up some intense truths, right? You hear about early on, you hear about this story of a child. I think his name is George, who's like 11 or so, but he had a very traumatic experience at 4, and his physical body stopped growing at 4.
Wow.
And just the impact that trauma has on our mental and physical states of being is intense. And I bring the ACE up because I'm trying to grapple with, like, what my score is, which I think is a 6, and what that means. And, I was having a conversation with my wife, Jessica, and she brought up an experience that I haven't shared on the podcast. And I don't know if I feel comfortable yet in sharing, but it was, I think subconsciously I put it aside as, I don't know, a protective measure, as I'm not ready or what have you. But I guess I bring it up because it's like, when you think about or I'll just bring this on me for a second. I wonder if you can relate. When I think about, like, certain childhood traumas that I experienced and certain struggles that I experienced emotionally, physically as a child, it's hard for me sometimes to unbaggage myself of those things, because there's such, and I guess that's the work I'm trying to do in EMDR. It's such a core thing. How have you, in your work, in your therapy, in your EMDR, all these things, how are you untethering yourself of those traumas and to use your word, also honoring them at the same time?
Yeah. Well, I love that you're bringing up the ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences, for people who are not familiar. And I think that one of the ways that I personally have learned how to work with those kinds of experiences is to use focusing, which is part of the approach that I use in my practice, which is a type of somatic integration. It's similar to EMDR in that sometimes you can go into a particular experience and you are connecting with the felt sensations of that experience. So you're noticing, oh, I feel this heaviness in my heart or this uneasiness in my stomach, and you're building up a tolerance to be able to be with those difficult emotional and physical sensations.
Okay.
And then you can learn something from them, because these parts of us, they hold an awareness, they hold memories. And a lot of times these parts just want to be heard. And so by doing focusing, by building a relationship with ourselves and these parts of ourselves, then we can have more flexibility and ease. And when we notice them, maybe they're not impacting us subconsciously. Maybe we have more awareness about certain thoughts, memories, feelings, behaviors. And then they kind of start losing their charge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's funny. I was thinking the other day, like, wow, we know this from so many different psychological theories, that most stuff is imprinted in us by age 7 or 8. And it just holds so much weight in how we experience ourselves in the world. And I do think that a lot of healing work, we don't need to live in, like, our early childhood for sure, but I do think that we need to spend a lot of time there and work to bring more balance to the parts of ourselves that are still really oriented around the trauma or the wounding, so that, like I said, there's not as much of a charge around certain experiences or memories.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love the way you put that, a charge around it, because I do think, and I'm sure you find this in your patients and yourself, is like naturally we tend to not want to dwell on the things that bring us pain, but we have to go there first. We have to be curious, right? We have to go there. We have to explore and understand truly, like, how, because it is like it's imprinted in us. Like, as I'm learning in
Exactly.
this book, The Deepest Well, like it is deep in our core, like
In our DNA.
it's yeah. So I'm learning about like the DNA piece and then the epigenetic piece, right? Genetic and
Mhm.
epigenetic. And like the epigenetic piece is the nature nurture thing. And people, of course, or people are, finally realizing that it's, of course, both those things that are shaping us.
Right.
And no amount of ignoring those experiences, or sort of putting them in boxes and locking them away, that's only gonna serve to hurt us in the end, right?
Right. What we resist persists.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, also, I was going to say, and I think that, and I know that I've gotten stuck here too. Like, I think what you're describing too is a lot of the terrain of shadow work, right? And that is really deep, necessary, and it can be very uncomfortable, painful work. Um, but I don't think that that's exclusively the domain of healing. I mean, I don't think we always have to go into that place to heal. I think that um, there's other places that we can go to heal. And that's something that I've been kind of exploring in the last couple of years through my community and especially through the plants and the flowers. So I just wanted to say that.
Sure. No, and I appreciate that. I am very open. Like, I think it is important to always be mindful of the fact that there is no one singular truth. There's certainly many truths, and holding them all at once, is important, and understanding
Mhm.
that we humans are capable of holding myriad truths at the same time. I'm wondering, like, is there like a universality of healing?
Mm.
Just because, like, I'm not a therapist like yourself. I'm just a silly boy, but but I, in my personal experience, and I can only, curiosity and having an open heart and being willing to listen, like, those seem like universal aspects of healing, don't they?
Mm. Definitely. Yeah, the receptive for sure.
Yeah. What
But
other sort of universal aspects of healing would you throw in there?
the universality of healing, yeah, really interesting concept. Well, in my book, I talk a lot about balance, the idea of cosmic balance, and the the need for bringing more healing justice into healing spaces.
Mm,
And the idea behind that is that healing is very how we can bring like a holistic response to generational trauma and then bring about collective practices that can impact and transform oppression and harm.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think that interconnectedness is something that I find myself circling within a lot around when I'm thinking about like the unified field and the universality of healing, as you say. Um, and I think that this is such an interesting time to explore the interconnectedness piece because it just seems so relevant right now. It just seems
Yeah.
like the teachings, the invitations of this time are to continue uh, to be in the receptive and to be in listening, especially, I mean, I'm a white cisgendered hetero woman. So I definitely feel called to be paying attention to that interconnectedness from my level. And I suppose I really strongly identify with a lot of indigenous healing traditions that wherein balance was ingrained in their wisdom, was ingrained in the way that they conceptualized all life, that there's really no separation between me and you and me and the plants and the animals and the elements. It's all part of this wondrous ecosystem. And we are all microcosms of the macrocosm. So I find myself getting kind of cosmic when I'm thinking about that.
I think it's lovely. I think, maybe it's fair to say that the universal thing is the fact that we are interconnected, right? And thinking of it in those terms is inherently mindful of others' experiences, right? And how we as humans impact each other and how we relate to each other and how we relate to the earth and all these things that we should be thinking of mindfully every day, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. When it comes to racial and social justice, when it comes to climate change, all these things that we do truly have an impact on and we need to think about, but so much, as you know, of our society and culture is me, is about independence, is about like these ideals of, men conquering, right? And
absolutely,
those are perversions.
Yeah, and all manifest destiny and individualism and capitalism and I think a lot of those structures are being called into question, and in many cases actually dissolving. And like you said, there's in the beginning there's this dissolution happening, and I feel like a lot of us feel unanchored. But I also feel exhilarated and hopeful that that's happening. And I think it's an interesting time also to be. The book also focuses a lot on flower essences, which are a type of vibrational and plant medicine that I use in my practice. And I get into the metaphysics of vibrational medicine because this idea that the way that I heal myself and my field actually impacts the field, the global field. Right. So there's no separation there. And the way that you care for yourself is the way that you care for your community. Likewise, if you're harming yourself, you're harming your community.
Yeah.
And if you are working from a place of self-love and self-care, then you have more of an opportunity to be in service to other people's healing. And we can become strengthened by that. I wonder with all of this emphasis on interconnectedness and the invitation to look at the systems that aren't working and why, I wonder if maybe we're ready now to be more open to holistic healing and vibrational medicine and all of those modalities that honor this interconnectedness of the healing process.
Yeah. I just want to take a moment and listeners talk to you listeners for a second, because this is very important stuff right here. And I believe in it wholeheartedly. And ultimately what it comes down to for me is, and we'll get into like specifics of like your practices, Heidi, but I just want to take a moment because we as humans are on journeys, right? And we were born into the world and we take these paths and we feel often alone in these paths. And the journey is really about knowing ourselves, and it's about knowing each other, and it's about connecting with each other. Like I feel like it is an easier path, but we so often, by easier path, I mean the path that connects us with others, that allows us to see others and learn from others. Like that is ultimately the, less difficult path in a way, because it allows us to lean on each other. It allows us to, like, it creates this loving connection that I think is a scary place to be. But it's the place we always find ourselves in, and I've certainly been there a lot. It's like the default is like this place where we are trying to do it alone, and we feel like we have to do it alone, and then we feel alone, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but like, you're so right. Like our own healing is for us, but it's ultimately for the collective. It's ultimately for our communities, for Mama Nene, right? For all of this. Like, it's like, I think it's so important to think of it in that way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and there was something an idea coming into my field, and now it has left as you were speaking. But yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
I mean, I basically just reiterated what you had said, just not as eloquent. And I just wanted to say it again because it's so important. And it's like, as Heidi, like, the more I've done this show and like the more I think about these ideas, like my own heart and has grown immensely throughout the process. I've learned so much, and it's only because like I've been able to be humbled and put aside my ego and just lead with my heart and be open to new ideas and perspectives and all these things. And like, that is, I say it again and again, that is the aim of life, is like that place, is that sort of like letting go of that ego, being open to the change, being open to that connective healing that we can have as humans. Like that is the real stuff.
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
That's the good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Well, I just wanted to add on to what you were saying about that sense that sometimes we feel like we have to do it alone. And we get so attached to our individualism, and we can become isolated in our healing journeys. And just to say too, I have a similar worldview. Like I believe that the purpose of being human is to come, and we have certain assignments that we're here to, that we've agreed to take on, and we're here to learn and love and connect and be in our hearts and help each other and the earth, and then we leave, and maybe we come back to do it again here. Maybe we get to go somewhere else. I don't know. But I think that we come in alone and we leave alone. So there is that experience of just being with ourselves. And yet I think you're right. I think that we don't have to believe that it's like that all the time. It's both. We have the opportunity to connect. We don't have to figure this all out. That's not the work. That's not what we're here to do. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, thank you. And just piggyback, on what you had said there. You're 100% right. Like, knowing it's not about, like, the fact remains is like there's so much in our world that is perhaps unknowable, right?
Right.
A mystery, right? And and it's, I think curiosity is important, and but like I do think that like there is a certain sort of relinquishing the control of like trying to know everything that's an important piece of this puzzle.
Mm. Yeah. And how wonderful now that we're in this time where I do think that there's more access to the pieces of the puzzle, and people are really seeking truth in a new, awesome way. And also that in itself can be a kind of striving. And I know I get stuck there sometimes, like, yeah, you're not actually supposed to have it all figured out. And it's not about doing it perfect, but um, finding some balance with that process, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does balance look like for you nowadays?
Well, it's interesting because I'm actually playing around with the idea of creating some kind of curriculum to accompany the book because,
Excellent.
yeah, as a practitioner, I see clients one on one, and that's a huge part of my work. My practice is called Moon and Bloom, and I adore that work. I feel it is so honored. And I am getting to a point where I can only see so many clients a week. And so I want to create some kind of opportunity to guide a group of people in a deeper process. And I've been thinking a lot about what would it look like to create some kind of curriculum around cosmic balance. And some of my training is studying the ancient Egyptian mysteries. So there was a lot of emphasis on balance to the ancient Egyptians and alignment, and bringing in this idea of what is cosmic balance, as opposed to what are the cosmic laws of the universe, as opposed to, well, what are our cultural laws that I don't agree with and don't believe to be true. So in the book, I go into a bit about where I think the collective has gone out of balance, and I discuss the role that the patriarchy has played in that. And then I discuss some ideas about bringing greater balance into our lives, and into the world, by way of looking at the masculine and the feminine, and how those are kind of out of whack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so for me personally, I've been thinking a lot about what does balance look like to me right now, because I think for myself and a lot of my clients, there's kind of a magic formula, and that formula is always evolving. And what balance looks like in this time for us looks very different than as it has in the past, right? Because we're just in this unprecedented time. So, a big part of my work right now is really looking at that, like on a regular basis. Okay, where am I in balance with my work and my life? Where do I need more to bring more balance to my mental health? Where is there an imbalance with my community and connecting there? I think a lot about input versus output, where I have the opportunity to work on myself, and where do I have the opportunity to be in service. Like that can become imbalanced for me a lot of times.
Yeah, I relate to that.
Yeah. And I think I know you don't, I know you don't identify as a therapist, but I mean, you are working in a healing capacity. And I think, if I may say so, and I think a lot of people in working in that way who identify as highly empathic beings can be prone to becoming imbalanced with serving themselves versus serving others, or the earth, or animals, wherever you are working in the world. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is I find myself, forgetting about my own self and putting it all into others. Like that's where I find myself. That's where I'm imbalanced at times.
Mhm.
And that's certainly, I don't know if you're a fan of the Enneagram, but
I do love the Enneagram. What are you?
I'm a 2. I'm a
Oh,
helper.
you're a helper.
Yeah.
One or a three wing?
I am a 3 and a 9 or 7, 3 and a 7 wing.
Oh, okay.
So, with that said, as a helper, like I get a lot of value, and it makes me feel good to serve, to help others, to heal others in the way that I can, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
also have this, and it's what I'm working on in EMDR. I also have this underpinning, deep, limiting belief that I don't deserve love, and so I
Yeah.
also need to be mindful of that and understand that, like, oh, I need to take care of myself as well, right? And remembering that, like, if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't truly, like, properly, holistically take care of others, and be mindful of that
Mm-hmm.
dynamic.
Totally. Yeah. Twos, as I understand it, they try to get love by doing,
Mm-hmm.
going outside of themselves. And that's such a common program that I see in
Yeah.
our society too, right?
Yep.
Um,
What
and
what number are you?
I am a 5 with a 4 wing.
Okay.
So I am
Maybe I had the 4 wing.
well, you have to have a wing next to your number. So you're either a 1 or a 3.
Okay, maybe I was 3. Sorry, I interrupted.
It's okay.
So
Um,
the 4 is
the 5 is an individualist and the
oh,
4 is a romantic.
gotcha.
Um, and so a lot of kind of tortured souls were 5s with 4 wings, like
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't Sylvia Plath. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think Carl Jung.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't strike me as like a tortured person, um, but I can get kind of solipsistic about my healing,
Mm-hmm.
and I can tend to just go inward to a very isolated place if I'm in a more disintegrated level. And I've definitely spent years being in a very low disintegrated 5 place. So yeah, I bringing balance to that. How can I challenge the assumption that I need to be suffering alone and no one knows what I'm going through, or it's a burden for me to
Mm.
be asking for help, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I relate to that deeply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so you part of your practice, and part of this new book, the Bloom book that you wrote, is this is plant medicine, or you working with flower essences and stuff. Can
Mm-hmm.
you, just on the sort of base level, help me and the listeners understand just what that is?
Sure. So flower essences are a type of plant and vibrational medicine that are used to bring about healing and also shifts in consciousness. And so I don't know if you've ever have you worked with plant medicine before?
I have not. I'm really new to this.
Okay.
I'm excited for a lesson.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to make you something if you want.
I love it.
Yeah. So plant medicine, I think a lot of people associate like tinctures and teas
Mm-hmm.
with traditional plant medicine, in the Western tradition anyway. And plant medicine is one of the oldest forms of healing on the planet. Um, and it's using plants as medicine and plants for healing. So you can responsibly forage something in nature. You can grow your own medicine. You can work with producers who are making medicine for you. It's very accessible. When done ethically, it's very low impact. Um, and so flower essences are a little different than an herbal tincture because the way that they are made is different. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of similar to homeopathy in that you are taking a flower and each flower has its own healing signature. And you are placing that flower in a bowl of water in the sunlight or moonlight, and you are extracting the energetic signature or essence out of that flower. And then you're working with it. I like to work with plant medicine very intentionally because I think that it potentizes it. And so it can be applied to any kind of healing inquiry or journey that you're on.
Can you give me an example of like a type of healing and like maybe a specific type of flower essence that would connect?
Yeah. So I recently, because it is advantageous to make plant medicine during certain astrological transits or cosmological happenings. So there was a really big eclipse recently. I don't know if you were aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So over that eclipse and solstice weekend, I decided to make a flower essence blend. So I took golden yarrow, rue, and St. John's wort, and I made them all in a blend together because they were, and I don't normally do that. I usually just do one flower at a time, but they were all blooming at the same time and they were really calling me to work with them. And they all have these beautiful golden yellow blooms, which if you're working in a lot of the herbal traditions, you learn that what a plant looks like impacts how its healing signature. So yellow, for instance, connects to the solar plexus, and that's your identity, that's your willpower, that's your ability to manifest. And I find that it is also balancing to blue. It's balancing to lower vibratory states like depression, or lack of willpower, lack of confidence. So I had kind of an idea of what these flowers would be creating in their alchemy together.
Mm-hmm.
And St. John's wort, as you might know, is I don't know if you've heard of it as a plant, but it is used as an antidepressant.
Right.
Yeah. So, but golden yarrow, and rue and St. John's wort are all very protective essences. Rue has a very ancient, magical tradition attached to it. It is used for protection against evil. And yarrow, all of the yarrows, there's white, there's pink, there's actually a purple, there's a white yarrow. And golden yarrow is helpful in helping one feel protected from their own self. So it's strengthening the auric field around you. It's really great. Yarrow is a really great essence for empaths. I give pink yarrow to a lot of my clients. I think that it would be a really good one for you, actually.
Now, it's fascinating to me. Are you like foraging these in the wild, or are you growing them yourself?
Yeah, great question. So ideally, you want to work with wildflowers.
Mm-hmm.
And just to add here, wildcrafting is a really big topic. And I recently collaborated with some friends of mine at the Herbal Underground on a responsible wildcrafting guide, which you can check out at my website, moonandbloom.com, under the resources section. But yeah, you can forage you would wildcraft flower essences. And
I love that.
Yeah, wildcrafting. It's beautiful. It's so empowering to make your own medicine.
So to do it responsibly, like what does that look like exactly?
Well, it's such a big topic.
Okay.
I don't want to use all of our time talking about it,
Sure.
but there's, especially as a white person, you need to be aware of this like white settler mentality
Mm.
and colonization and appropriation. And we came in just taking and stealing and
Yep.
not even caring about it. So we really need to be aware of that privilege associated with wildcrafting. And so, for instance, I've been staying in Vermont here, and we are on Pennacook and Abenaki land, and offering those land acknowledgments to the people that were the original stewards of this land. And they did not cede this land to us, but I am working on it nonetheless. And I love working with flower essences because they are so low impact. They are not, you don't need a ton of plant material to make a flower essence. You need like, you could make it with one flower, you know?
Mm.
So I think as the popularity around plant medicine continues to proliferate, it is good to know about these subtle medicines that work in really powerful ways, but you don't need a lot of plants to make the medicine from them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned, coming from a place of privilege and being mindful of the history there. Like, of
Mhm.
course, that is always very important. I read on your website, I think, regarding to herbal medicine, specifically, you said herbal medicine as a radical way to promote ecological and social justice.
Mhm.
Is that what you mean by that? Like when you talk about like being mindful of privilege, and help me understand that a little bit better.
Sure. Well, I think that, and I didn't start this work, but I am an advocate of social and healing justice, and um, we as herbalists have this opportunity to bring more balance into the world and to dismantle oppressive systems and to decolonize not only herbal medicine but all of alternative healing and Western medicine. So part of that requires us to be aware of our own privilege and to continue to question where we've been unconsciously colluding with systems and traditions that are harmful. And
Mm-hmm.
because these are so inherent in our sociocultural norms, you know, it's what we were taught in our history books. There's a great unlearning happening right now. There's a great awakening happening, and
Yep.
so I feel as a white herbalist who's been so lucky, so fortunate to be able to study healing extensively, I feel a tremendous responsibility to use my fortune, my good fortune and platform to bring more um, equity and justice and balance to the world.
I appreciate that, and I love that. I wonder, like, can you give me an example of like a specific way that you are bringing more equity into the world with that practice?
Sure. So I was recently part of uh, a healing workshop led by a woman named Sabia Wade, and she has a practice called the Black Doula. She's a doula and educator, and the idea of a reparations plan and accountability plan came up. And so this is something that we processed together as a group. And I actually came up with my own reparations plan. So the idea behind reparations is that you are giving your time, energy, and money to BIPOC
Mm-hmm.
individuals, organizations, the community. So you're creating more equity and justice and balance. And so it's actually on my blog. You can check it out, moonandbloom.com. But part of that, I mean, for many years, I've been making an effort to, for instance, give a portion of my profits to BIPOC led and LGBTQ led organizations in the healing world, because I really feel strongly about making alternative healthcare accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way. I mean, honestly, I haven't really been in much of a position to do that until recently, because I've only been in private practice for 6 years, and it just takes a while to make money.
Yeah.
But some other things that I'm committed to doing are, like, I was looking at my herbal books the other day, like, wow, I have a few BIPOC authors here, but I really need to do a better job of like decolonizing my library.
Right. Right.
So yeah, seeking out opportunities to learn from BIPOC individuals, seeking out ways to promote cross-racial dialogue. And I formed an affinity group with another colleague of mine. She's a social worker. That hasn't started yet, but I'm hoping that we can dive into that work soon. So there's so many things to do. I've listed more on my that post that I mentioned, but those are just a few things that I'm committed to in this next year.
Amazing. That's great. That's really wonderful. Let's talk about your book, the Bloom book.
Yay!
Which, by the way, I mean who was who did the art in it? What was her name?
Yeah, that is my dear friend Chelsea Granger. She is a genius.
I mean, just the cover alone is so inviting and warm, and just makes me want to dive in.
Yeah, she did an amazing job. And I worked with Sounds True. They're my publisher. They've been incredible to work with. So I feel really, really supported in this project.
And how long, like, what was the sort of timeline of events to get to this place of like, I have a book out in the world?
Yeah, so the invitation came about a few years ago, and it was another publisher had actually approached me about writing a book. And I thought, I don't know if I'm up for this, but what the heck? I'll give it a shot. This would be a good exercise for me to put together a book proposal. And things kept moving forward, and then I ended up needing to dissolve that original deal. And then I got my agent, Meg Thompson, who's also incredible. And I reworked the proposal, and we started sharing it with various publishers. And I mean, it was really quite, I don't actually know totally how I wrote this book. I just set the intention, and I had I had a ritual around it, and I would show up to my desk to type every day, and it would just come through in chunks. And then I worked with an incredible editor, and she helped me kind of refine. My husband's also an editor, and so he was super helpful in the process. And I think it was really meant to be, because the writing part was really no problem. I found it to be quite incredible. I mean, it was obviously demanding and required a lot of me, but it was quite a magical experience.
That's so good to hear. And how is this book structured? Is there, just how is the book structured? Like, what are the components of it?
Yeah, so there's 4 chapters. There's an introduction, so I share a little bit about my background and how I came to this work. It has a foreword by my teacher, Jane Bell. And in the second chapter, I talk about coming into cosmic balance. some of the ways that we've fallen out of balance, some of the ways back. And then chapter 3, I dive into the blooms and to flower medicine. I do talk about cultural appropriation and colonization with Western herbalism and flower essences. And then I teach you how to make your own medicine, everything you need. It's super simple. And then the last chapter is flower rituals for healing and transformation. So this is bringing the flower essences that you're working with or maybe making and using them in your own kinds of rituals.
Yeah. And what would you say is like the main goal with the Bloom book?
Main goal with the assignment, I say, was to bring people to the flowers and it is a guide for awakening. And this was kind of the piece of the puzzle that I was given to share.
I love that. I love the way you talk. Well, I love the way you talk, period.
Thanks.
And I love the way you talk so, you talk in this way that is connected, right? It's you're mindful of like how you play a role in this cosmic place, and it's really, I'm picking up on it because it's really like it's making me think as you talk. It's making me think of like how I'm connected and how we're here together, and like that's such a nice response. Like I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited for the Bloom book. Where can people learn more about it and hopefully purchase it?
Yeah, you can purchase the Bloom book at most of the places books are available. So that includes SoundsTrue.com, Barnes and Noble, of course, Amazon. But I'm really encouraging people to buy through bookshop.org. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but so they are an indie book conglomerate, and you're supporting small bookstores when you buy the book through there.
Right. And indiebound.org is also
Indiebound.
Yeah.
Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah. That's good for international purposes, but I have all the links available on my website too.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to include all those links in the show notes for this episode too.
Cool. Thank you.
Let's talk empathy heroes. We always wrap up the show talking about the folks in our lives who are just wonderful empaths. It could even be a character from a novel we love, or someone maybe we don't know personally, but have made a impact on the world through an empathetic lens. I will go first to give you a moment to think about yours, Heidi. So Representative Congressman, John Lewis recently died at the age of 80. And, as you may know, everyone, he was, a civil rights icon. And it was hard to see him pass recently. There is a great book called March. It's a graphic novel done by what's his name? Nate Powell, I think is his name. But it's all about John Lewis marching for civil rights. It's wonderful. But I wanted to read this quote. This quote is actually from Barack Obama about John Lewis. And Barack says, "Considering his enormous impact on the history of this country, what always struck those who met John was his gentleness and humility. Born into modest means in the heart of the Jim Crow South, he understood that he was just one of a long line of heroes in the struggle for racial justice. Early on, he embraced the principles of nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience as the means to bring about real change in this country, understanding that such tactics had the power not only to change laws, but to change hearts and minds as well." I love that quote. John Lewis will be missed, but his lasting impact will not be forgotten. So John Lewis is my empathy hero this week.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
Sharing. I love what he's saying about hearts and minds. I love it when people tie in the heart.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, three people came to mind when you said empathy hero. My husband, my maternal grandmother, and my teacher, Jane Bell. And I think that something that all three of these people have had in common, and as I'm saying their names, I'm recognizing, wow, how lucky I am to have three people offering me so much unconditional love. But I think the resounding gift, one of the many resounding gifts that these three people have had in my life, are the ability to hold so much space for me to be me.
Yeah.
And to help me reach a new baseline where I can love myself as much as they do and really celebrate my own soul.
I love that.
So
that
those
is
are
the
my
gift of these people, right?
Yeah.
Is like, that is truly it. Is like they see us for who we are and champion us for who we are. And, not everyone does that. Not everyone has the capacity for that. And when we can find those people, it's such a beautiful gift.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful you have those three in your life.
Thank you. I am too.
Well, Heidi, where can the Feely humans out there connect with you online, and all of that stuff?
Yeah. So my website, as I already mentioned, is moonandbloom.com. And I do have a contact form there. I am currently at capacity with my client base. So I have a wait list going. You can add your name to that, or it would be amazing just to hear from you and email me to say hello. And I always am available to offer referrals. And I am on social media. I'm only on Instagram.
Smart.
We could definitely talk for an hour about that. And my handle is Moon and Bloom. So you can find me there as well.
Amazing. Well, Heidi, thank you so much for being a guest on Yumi Empathy. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I'm excited to start reading the Bloom book. And listeners, make sure to go pick up the Bloom book, support Heidi. Remember to order from your local bookstore, and I'll make sure to have all those links to Heidi's work and to the book in the show notes for this episode. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you so much for having me known. It was really wonderful to connect with you and your people. So thank you.
Yeah, likewise, my friend. And to you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.
La, la, la.